Hello everybody, my name is BigPot and today we're gonna be checking out the part 2 in the amazing Linux challenge by Linus Tech Tips. We're gonna be checking on what has been a long period between first part and the second part of the challenge with us. It was supposed to be 30 days, but apparently it took them more than 30 days to just release the second part. We're gonna see what happens, and there's supposed to be a third part actually soon. So we're gonna see what took so long. Maybe, I don't know. And we're gonna see what happens in this part 2. So let's begin, shall we? But before we do that, let's crack open a cold one. And now we can begin. And with the video ready, beer in hand, let's get comfortable and let's watch.
The Linux Challenge 2026 edition was supposed to be a 3-part series.
The setup, a task-off challenge episode testing day-to-day usability, and a conclusion.
But then the first week was full of so many unexpected highs and lows.
We knew there had to be another video.
Oh yeah, everybody, cheers.
Especially after the Linux community exploded after I picked Pop! OS again.
And while Luke and I...
Yes, I also exploded for his pick of Pop! OS, and I'm still gonna be very angry anytime he mentions Pop! OS, especially if he defends Pop! OS as an option after what happens last time, and from the fact that he doesn't ask anybody. And yeah, he has a rule, but let's be clear. In era of when most gamers who switch to Linux are generally somewhat of either take it themselves, so they will know to not just go for a listicle and a single ChatGPT prompt, or they will ask a friend. By a friend, I mean somebody who has already switched, already has some knowledge. Everybody has a friend like that. Then they would then they would start their research. Because, simple reality is nobody does this in isolation. But Linus purposefully isolated himself for benefits of the challenge, although in my opinion it makes the challenge worse.
seem to have been praised for our choices, I can tell you guys firsthand that it has not been a smooth ride for me.
Meanwhile, things were going so great for me, I decided to dip my toes even further, attempting some more complex tasks that I didn't...
Question is what Elijah was doing. Yes. Despite Bazite being Bazite, therefore having great experience, depending on what you're doing, Bazite will be a detriment to you. But reality is, if you're doing something that Bazite actively discourages, Bazite isn't for you. You should be looking towards something like CacheOS. Despite being Arch, I would say CacheOS, or something like Fedora. No, Fedora KDE, not the immutable ones.
expect to go super well, just to see what would happen.
And I ended up trying some other distros which addressed some of my issues with Pop! OS, but also ended up being frustrating in their own ways.
But what is even more frustrating is that they aren't letting me be the one.
It's a segue to our sponsor.
Threat Locker. ThreatLocker helps organizations stay in control as AI becomes part of the workplace because it's important to limit what AI tools can do and what they can access. ThreatLocker's zero trust controls help reduce these risks. Learn more at our link down below.
New part every 2 months. Exactly. 30-day Linux challenge.
I feel like I've got to start this by explaining my brain-dead choice of Pop! OS. It was
Yes, it was a brain. I was gonna defend that it isn't brain dead, but yes, it is.
amazing how many people got angry at me for picking
Yes.
the same distro that screwed me over last time. But if you guys remember, I actually used Manjaro last time after I was assured that the bug that I encountered when I was setting up Pop! OS was a one-time fluke, and then I got piled on for being so quick to abandon it. So this is me putting aside my past experience after
Once again, you're not in a vacuum. You shouldn't just put aside your past differences. Also, it's Pop! OS. It's Frank Ubuntu, and 5 minutes of research would tell you that could happen.
You're
again.
seeing so many people, listicles, and chatbots that still recommend it.
So you see many chatbots. That's what listicles are. Written chatbot responses.
That willingness to try again is a good thing for Linux. I mean, if everybody bailed after one bad experience, there would be no distros left to try. Nothing is perfect.
Yes, but that's why there are more distros, not just Pop! OS. So you can try, so if that one didn't work, try something else.
And unfortunately, that goes especially for Pop! OS. System 76 has spent the last couple of years hard at work on a new desktop environment, Cosmic,
Finally.
and it's been a challenge.
Linus,
Yes.
Cosmic is basically in beta. Don't you know that it's not ready yet?
No, I didn't. For one thing, where does it say that? The thing that I downloaded was called LTS, or long-term support. That's like the opposite of
Yes, that is on Pop! OS. This is on System 76 fault. I agree. System 76 definitely has a problem here. A very bad problem.
beta. I would have had to journey to a random blog post from back in September of 2025 to discover that Cosmic is now in public.
You have to do more research in a couple of listicles and a single ChatGPT question.
Beta. Number two, maybe this is a hot take, but maybe if System 76, a commercial entity, not a random open source contributor, knows that it's not ready for prime time, instead of blaming me, we should probably blame the company that shipped it. And you
Yeah,
know what?
we should.
Yeah, I could have come across some of the Linux YouTube channels.
Just what we should have blamed them for the first fiasco they made. They were equally at fault as this time for shit experience. But so was Linus for having bad experience and then not doing his due diligence.
Channels that have highlighted these issues. But a key element of the Linux challenge is highlighting that unless you know to ask the question, is this distro's desktop environment in beta? It can be hard for new Penguin curious users to find the right answers. So as we keep going, it's important to think of the Linux challenge not as an attack on Linux, but as more of a pen test for
I agree, but in my opinion, this is in bad faith in many ways. Like, even the last time, there were somewhat in bad faith arguments that I didn't like, and the fact that he switched during a LAN event, the fact that he used same issue that caused him problems last time, the fact that he doesn't ask anybody anything, all of these contribute to something of a bad faith, whether he intentionally does it or not.
how friendly it is to newbies.
My Bazite adventure started a bit better than Linus at first. But if you remember in part 1, I mounted my SMB share.
That was your issue. It was a you issue, not an, because Again, you need to do research. You're typing in the one, and that wouldn't be a mount even in Windows land. You have to still set it up specifically. So learning this would have been important for you as well.
I was shocked at how easy it was to find, because normally on Windows,
Yes.
I would have to type in the address bar and find.
Yes, that's how we do it on Windows. That's how you mount it on Windows. This is not how you get to it, but you can mount it. But also, you can find it in exactly the same manner, but it's not as normal to actually find them.
Versus on Bazite, I just clicked on network and it found it right away. But I didn't realize that that wasn't mounting it. That was just creating a shortcut. This means
Actually, it is mounted. By opening it, you mount it for single use. What you wanted was a multi-use mount, so after you put it, it remains or it auto mounts, which is a different thing.
my read and write permissions were all over the place, and I couldn't save some files to my network drive if I clicked on that shortcut. To solve this, I had to do some Googling, and I found out that I needed to modify my fstab file to point the network location to the MNT folder on my drive. So I did that, but then I noticed that I had two, both of which were still behaving like a shortcut. I tried at least a dozen different options in order to mount the share correctly, none of which ultimately succeeded, or should have even been necessary if you ask me. Opening context menus on icons, shortcuts, or applications is a great tool, and it seems like a big oversight on the Bazite team to not include a quick mount option that just works.
That's not a thing. That's not a thing even on Windows. Let's be clear. Auto mount, what is what you wanted, not mount, because mount is accessing it, which is the same as typing in the address, which is actually in the background mounts it as well on Windows. Those are two different things. What you want is automatic mounting, and for that you need to set it up in a configuration file because of how it works. And there are ways to do it, but I wouldn't recommend having it just in a context menu. As far as I know, neither does Windows. Well, I was wrong. Actually, Windows does have a button to do that. Interesting, didn't know that.
Works. Instead, I want to F-stab myself in the head.
Meanwhile, I was having a
F-stab, FS-stab. As in file system table, not F-stab. It's an FS-stab, file system table.
grand old time on Cachy, and since I felt more comfortable than the other two guys, I decided to get a little bit daring. I uninstalled my entire
Also, fun fact, my recording is already just as long as the video.
desktop environment on purpose to see if I would run into any challenges. It took about 20 minutes max before I was up and running with KDE Plasma, and my only issue was that I had to clean up some small things left over from Cinnamon, like an additional sound icon that was in the bottom tray, because I had two sound icons and they could conflict and stuff, and that was honestly also really easy to do, so no big deal. As for my gaming adventures, my first real challenge in this Linux challenge was probably my own fault. I had read some stuff online saying that I could do it, but I think I was trying to be a little bit more optimistic than realistic. I had a Windows game drive previously that I just kind of left alone and tried to use on Linux, which means
That is hard to do. I believe in theory possible, in practice Steam and Proton will just fall apart in most cases.
that it was formatted in NTFS.
Doesn't matter. Not exactly the best, but should work. It's the biggest problem for him probably was the fact that it was, well, Windows installed media, installed applications.
I just
Linux,
added it
Proton installed.
to my Steam library in Linux and tried to go. All my games showed up perfect and everything seemed fine at first. Some games even ran okay, but I started to notice some glitches, and even some games that I had freshly installed on that drive just wouldn't work. It would just, you click play and it just wouldn't launch sometimes. It turns out that while
Oh yeah, that can be an issue with NTFS. Never saw it myself, because I did do NTFS things like that back in the day, but yeah, it can happen.
Linux can still use NTFS, and there's been some ongoing development to make it even smoother, even since we started this challenge, I can say in my experience, it was kind of rough, especially when used with Proton. Proton doesn't seem to like it, so.
Okay, also I didn't use it with Proton, I used it with Wine, which might be which might have different optimizations, which means different levels of play. I used to use this back in the day when Proton didn't exist yet.
So in my opinion, if you want to play games off of an NTFS drive, just don't, at least not right now.
Yeah.
My gaming experiences were mostly smooth, with two major exceptions though. One of which I'm actually gonna save for the conclusion because it's kind of a spicy one, so make sure you get subscribed for that. But the other was actually the first game that I tried to fully play on Linux. Poppy Playtime Chapter 5. I wanted to stream it, but I was getting no audio and no picture, which is not ideal for a stream. Oh no, are we not gonna be able to play? But then it suddenly just popped in and started working fine. I played it for a little while, and then the same thing happened again.
Look, all the friends are here. Isn't this amazing? Oh.
Well, it turns out that the pre-rendered cutscenes weren't working. Proton, which is the compatibility layer that allows non-native Linux titles to work on Linux, is missing proprietary licenses for H.264 and H.265 video codecs. What was the solution?
Yeah, yep, that happens. And sorry, but we're not able to really fix that problem in an automated fashion.
A community fork called Proton GE,
Yep.
which
Glorious Egerl is really good at this stuff.
thankfully was in the Bazite store. That's a pretty simple fix, but it's also one that highlights how unrealistic some Linux evangelists can be about the experience. No, in many cases, it doesn't just work out of the box, and you
In many cases it does, in some it doesn't. Like, few bad experiences. Like, I've been playing games on Linux, on Windows, a long time. Like, yes, today I am running things like virtualization layers and similar technologies to actually like run games on Windows. To run games on Windows. But don't let that fool you. I can still play game on Linux if I wanted to. Catch is, I will not, for one simple reason. I have a VM of Windows, literally, because then I will have to have to use a VM of Linux, because my devices that I use to communicate with VMs are not good enough to play games. Even Baldur's Gate at its lowest settings runs at like a couple of FPS.
users who don't treat fixing their operating system as a hobby will be looking for someone to blame for this hassle. So is it Linux? Valve?
So you mean I don't fix my operating system hobby. Nuke and Pave, be gone, computer.
Mob Entertainment? The user? Maybe all? Or,
No, probably the last one.
hear me out, none? It's easy to jump on the blame bandwagon and hate on some developers for not prioritizing Linux. But ask yourself this, if 50% of your customers were on Windows, and the other 48% are on Xbox and PlayStation, would you be stoked on hiring a fourth group of employees whose job it is to deal with the other 2%? Especially
No, but let's be clear. I would do it. Because, and yes, shareholder value, but still, Linux is open source. And we should, all developers and all people behind the scenes of development, we all should pitch in and help out with Linux. Problem is, we don't. Open source, like the problem is they're probably using open source in the background, and they haven't yet, and they probably don't. The catch is they probably are using open source. Yet, as many times it has proven that a lot of these companies don't then give back to open source. That's the problem.
Actually knowing that those 2% are not running one OS, but are probably running different flavors of OS? I mean, maybe you would, but it's more important to remember that just like the users, many companies don't treat fixing operating systems like a hobby. Okay, so then we blame Valve. No, obviously not. It's super cool that they have put so much support into Proton, but the fact that they've paid so much already is not a good argument that they should just obviously pay even more for these commercial video codecs. The point I'm trying to make here is that enjoying the Linux experience requires a no-blame mindset.
Commercial video codecs shouldn't be used when ironically better video codecs, which are open source, can be used. That's the problem. H.264 is a very popular video codec. Ironically, I use it. But they are better video codecs for the kind of thing they are doing. I'm just transferring media to YouTube.
Some stuff's gonna work, and some stuff won't. It's not anybody's fault. Everyone is doing their best.
So with that in mind, throw out what I said earlier, because I'm not mad at System 76. In fact, I left Pop! OS on my main desktop just for the lulz, and it mostly worked for most things. With that said, when it came time to install Linux on my other systems, I did opt for something different. Starting with Bazite on my home theater PC. It's just too bad the Linux curse followed me there as well. Bazite has different versions of their installer, depending on the brand of your GPU and whether or not you want the SteamOS full screen experience. Well, I've got an NVIDIA GPU, and yeah, I want that experience. That's kind of the point of it on a home theater PC. So I picked this one. And let's put it this way. The Bazite team feels that I should have known the one that I selected would result in a completely unusable experience. But to me,
it seems he installed the game mode version. Yeah, you should have known. Because it said so there. That's the problem. But let's be clear, this is not a Linus problem. This is a human problem. We don't read anymore. Yes, that's an issue. I know. We don't read anymore.
so I picked this one. And let's put it this way. The Bazite team feels that I should have known the one that I selected.
Look, I know. Because I can read.
Would result in a completely unusable experience. But to me, that's actually not that obvious. Coming from the Windows...
Wait. In red bold red letters, under the choice you made, it is not obvious that shit will break when it says it has major bugs. Let me see exactly what it says. Multiple known issue exist. No, is in beta. Again, the word beta, it is there. And many known issues exist in these builds. Many known issues. Oh God. Unless you didn't download the image itself, you knew this would happen. And it's your fault. Even... Sorry, Linus, but you need to know how to read these days. I know it's something we don't do anymore as humans, but please read things. It will help you.
Completely unusable experience. But to me, that's actually not that obvious. Coming from the...
Well, it is obvious to me because I know how to read, and I need to stop with this point because otherwise I'm gonna spend another 13 minutes just talking about this.
Windows, Google, normie world, where a stable service like Gmail was labeled beta for 5 years. It's not that unreasonable.
Yes, but it doesn't mean that beta means it's okay. The fact that services you use the word beta doesn't automatically mean that everything that uses the word beta means it's okay. Words have meanings for pa. And clearly here it was used with the meaning that it has.
Reasonable to think that you can daily drive a beta and have a mostly functioning experience. In Linux, that's an expectation that needs to be completely thrown out the window.
Everywhere this expectation needs to be thrown out the window. Problem is that people abuse the word beta to serve you release things while release quality things while being able to hide behind the beta label if they fuck it up in any way. I'm not saying that's what Google did, but that is what is happening.
Here, beta seems to mean this is broken, and if you're not
It means this is testing. It is there for testing, it is testing release. It has always meant that. It is more stable than alpha, where alpha is probably fucked up. Beta is probably stabler, could be many bugs, and things change really quickly. But it is at least usable if you're willing to overlook major bugs.
developer, you should probably just download the LTS, which might also be beta. Haha, clearly we've got to reach a middle ground.
And again, Popo of System 76 didn't do a good job, and they are bad in this situation. They are bad for shipping what is essentially a beta, if not even that, desktop environment on LTS.
Around here, and Bazite seems to agree because they have updated the messaging on their site. Anyway, that happened.
Oh, they are doing a bigger warning! Yeah, even a bigger warning. Now, let's see.
Ground here, and Bazite seems to agree because they have.
Even bigger warning. And now it comes with a check mark. So now, Linus will still not read it. Let's be honest. Or most people still won't read it. So let's get on with our 10 minutes of recording, because then my drive would be full on phone.
Updated the messaging on their site. Anyway, that happened later. So to get my system up and running, I ended up doing what many Linux people do and switching to a Radeon card, which was completely painless.
Why run Bazite?
No, not many people. Like, some people do it, but not many, because many of us don't have money to what is essentially known as fuck you money, so we can throw around and buy stuff a new multi-$100 GPU.
Right? When I could just run SteamOS on the Steam machine that we built on this channel like a couple months ago. I can't believe I forgot about this thing. I've been meaning to install it.
I actually ended up throwing SteamOS on my home theater PC.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a bit of a hack to just switch out your hardware? Yes, but also no, because a lot of Linux gamers would go out of their way to choose compatible hardware in the first place. So
Yes, if you're buying, you might buy more compatible hardware. But guess what? NVIDIA hardware is compatible if you pick the right choices.
I'm pretending I did that. First, I want to see how well this integrates with my system here. Let's hit power toggle for the PC. No way. Did Valve seriously bake in support for this old Microsoft IR receiver?
Which was child's play to get working, and it's been kind of awesome from the couch. Nothing further to report there. As for my laptop,
Probably not.
I decided it was finally time to
Microsoft
practice
probably
what I
looks
preach
kinda
and go for good old-fashioned, trustworthy Ubuntu. Sort of. Kubuntu is actually Ubuntu, but with the KDE
Okay.
desktop environment, which I
Not gonna say good choice, bad choice, because it is Kubuntu. It is better choice than, I don't know, Pop! OS, for example. But still, you could run Ubuntu, especially 2604. There have been issues with that.
find quite comfortable to navigate, sort of. I mean, first I have to get to the desktop, and day one was kind of terrible. After completing setup, it just
Oh, 25
black
times.
screened, and it sat there for hours. And I was like, come on, man, this is ridiculous. Then I came down in the morning and it was like Santa had visited because it was magically sitting at the login screen, and it's been downright pretty solid ever since, with a bit of a learning curve. For example, I did run into issues getting some applications to work due to downloading the wrong package. Debian packages, snap packages, and Flatpaks will all work on Kubuntu. But I figured, okay, well, Debian makes the most sense since Kubuntu is based on Debian. But then after I installed OBS, I realized I had no option to select the display that I wanted to screen capture. The solution? Use the Flatpak installer, apparently. Okay, but where? The top result, as far as I can tell, doesn't convey that it's a Flatpak. Oh, right! I need to enable Flatpak search. Except that wasn't the solution either, because Wayland, which Kubuntu uses as part of its desktop environment, has a privacy thing built in that
Yes.
no likey screen capture. Now, it can be worked around, but threads like this one are a great example of how
Not a privacy thing, a security thing. It has very little to do with privacy. It has to do with the fact that the screen recording, in the current case, is essentially no. You don't know it's screen recording in the olden days of X11, while Wayland has permission system. Good thing. And we're back, and this was continued recording. Okay, let's continue after the break. Since this break.
how troubleshooting can often be a guess and check experience because there are like 5 different solutions in here and I actually can no longer remember which one worked. Of course though, it's important to point out that every problem that we're having with Linux can also be a problem with Windows.
But the fact that Microslop is also bad doesn't mean that we shouldn't be honest about issues or like level of tinkering required with Linux. My laptop, for example, running Mint and a very simple use case of basically just
If there is any lag, I am sorry. This is not the video. This is my recording. Just noticed there's some lags on the side of OBS. I don't know what is going on. I hope they resolve themselves.
loading a browser hasn't required any tinkering this whole time and hasn't really had any problems. My desktop running CachyOS, I've intentionally tried to like put myself in harm's way and ran into some really complex scenarios.
There are problems now, so I'm gonna stop this recording now. Now I hope I resolved the issues with lagging. Please, and if there are lagging issues, I am sorry. I will not be fixing them.
Scenarios that have been fun to diagnose and work through, but there are things that are quite simple on Windows and very easy to do that are more complicated on Linux. And that's
and there are things that are incredibly complicated on Windows that are freaking simple on Linux. And there are things that are complicated both. It is not Linux better has to be better in everything. That's not how it is.
okay, but trying to hide that fact in order to recruit more Windows users to join the community, I think does more harm than good.
There are some who will do that, and especially this can be seen in the world of security. Like there used to be, and some still do say that Linux is more hack-proof than Windows, which isn't true. As of the day of the recording, we know there's been 3 major vulnerabilities: copy-fail 1, copy-fail 2, and dirty frag. Something frag. So yeah, Linux is just as prone to security issues as Windows, and prone to usability issues as Windows, despite Windows being Windows. Neither is really that much better. in that front. But Linux just has those tiny niggles of betterness for me, which make it better over time and make my life easier for day-to-day use.
Especially when they are, unfortunately, fairly often met with hostility from the community when they then run into these problems and are unequipped to deal with. I think there are some obviously extremely bright lights in the Linux community that bring a lot of hope and joy and fun to the whole experience of learning Linux, but there is a lot of negative.
And so is in Windows world, except the difference is we do not so much connect with Windows community because nobody cares. Where on Linux you care because this is not a status quo. Like that's the problem. And yeah, it's not a Linux community, it's many communities, and you just engage with the wrong one.
Communication on forums, on Reddit, elsewhere. It's very off-putting.
And those places will always be dickheadish. Is that not a new thing? That's not new.
For new Linux community members, which we're going to be seeing a lot more of soon, to receive that type of energy. The biggest thing that didn't work for me was just software compatibility, but with some time and effort, I did manage to find either.
And yes, that's a big problem, software compatibility. You have to find alternatives. That's it.
An alternative way to get the Windows native version working for my admittedly somewhat basic software suite.
I didn't. I use Adobe Premiere for editing, and one of the many fun ways that Adobe is kinda ass is that it just doesn't work on Linux. Now, I tried messing around with Bottles a bit, which allows you to run Windows software on Linux.
Adobe Premiere is shit in this. That is the original reason for my VMs to exist. Because I was running Windows on my desktop and Linux on my laptop. Okay, I ran dual boot on desktop. Because I was playing games and I was doing things like editing on my Windows system. But that system was perpetually broken with blue screens, then reinstall cost, some other bullshit. Windows problems, essentially. That system runs perfectly. Now it's running some flavor of Linux for servers. And a bunch of VMs on top, including Windows.
But that was obviously still a no-go, which then sent me looking for alternatives. DaVinci Resolve has a Linux build, though it's only officially supported on Rocky Linux of all things. Still, Rocky Linux is a lot closer to Bazzite than Windows is, so maybe? And yeah, after 2 hours of trying, I got her up and running, but not the way I thought. See, I just tried installing it like a Windows application.
Nope.
Download and run. But Bazzite, as I learned, is an immutable operating system, similar to SteamOS. This means...
And that's where you got into issues. I knew it would be this. Again, if you are to, like... Bazzite is a console OS, essentially. It's SteamOS for your... It's what SteamOS is for the Steam Deck.
Core operating system files and permissions are locked down in such a way that the user either can't screw them up, or they can, but then they'll reset themselves after a reboot. Unfortunately, this same lockdown applies to some software installers, which then means that they can't alter the files that they need to.
Not unfortunately, thankfully. It is very important that it's thankfully, not unfortunately, especially anything that isn't supported.
The solution was for me to beat my head against a wall until I found this 6-minute video about a simple command to run. Hey, software installed. But then I ran into the same problem as Poppy Playtime. Depending on the file that I was trying to play or export, it wouldn't work. Frickin' curse you!
Proprietary codecs. Thank you, DaVinci Resolve. Thank you, Da Vinci. Like, I get Blackmagic design. I get them. They cannot just like Linux version, like free Linux version has problems with codecs. We know that already. Yep, that's the only problem for free version.
Video codecs. So I then tried Kden Live, which is fine for basic editing, but if I want to be a power user, it's just not quite there yet. And
Yep,
for
Kden Live
stills,
isn't there.
neither is GIMP. You know what? I'm going to be the one to say it. GIMP sucks.
With that said, I still
Whoa. That is totally fair and deserved. GIMP sucks. Very fucking much.
want to emphasize the gratitude that I feel, and you, Elijah, I know you feel it too, toward the open source community. Whether it's applications or drivers or Linux in general, the fact that people are stepping up against the corporate overlords who are limiting our choices, feasting on our wallet.
More importantly, they're stepping up they're stepping up on their free time, which they could be spending doing anything else besides sitting in front of their computers, typing probably same shit, aka code. They type at their work, and they normally don't even get a thanks. Yeah, open source is a thankless work.
And then spying on us for good measure is amazing and it's admirable. However, context matters. And when we're evaluating the experience of switching to Linux, we're doing so from a user perspective. And so we do have to point out things that might not be ideal. Just try to understand that it comes from a place of love and appreciation, not from a place of hate. Everybody involved in the Linux Challenge today is rooting for Linux to succeed. And it's actually been really exciting to see so many social media posts of people who have joined the challenge alongside us, even though we didn't ask anybody to. But as exciting as all of that is, part of succeeding in this is taking off the blinders and being honest about the areas where things need to improve. And it's actually been pretty cool to see that.
For me, Linux has been a pretty great experience, and I don't do a lot of shit normal Linux users do, and partly because of that as well. I don't play around with the system a lot. For that I have VMs. I don't do weird things. I have VMs for that. Simple as that.
Some of our observations are already resulting in clearer documentation that's going to help pave the path for future users. Now, I know we're releasing part 2, like, way past the 1 month point already. Elijah was busy fixing our environmental chamber, among other things, but we do still have more videos lined up for the series, and as you guys can see, even though we're past the month, there will be some surprises in the future parts. Part 3 is going to have us do some fun challenges, and then part 4 is going to be the conclusion where we sit down on the couch together and talk about our final thoughts.
More views
Oh,
for
and we'll
me.
probably also talk about our segue to our sponsor.